The massive alien ships appeared in space near Earth like dark clouds blocking out the stars. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the screens that showed a blue and green planet spinning slowly in the darkness. His 4 yellow eyes studied the information his crew had gathered about this world called Earth. "What do the scans tell us about their defenses?" he asked his second-in-command, a younger alien whose green scales still showed he was new to space. "Battles." "Very little to worry about, Admiral," the officer replied, checking his datapad. "No space stations with weapons, no energy shields protecting the planet, no ships that could threaten us. These humans seem to only have small rockets that barely reach their own moon." Vextar nodded with satisfaction. After months of traveling through space, they had finally found an easy target. The Zephyrian hegemony needed new worlds to control, and this one looked perfect. The humans appeared to be trapped on their single planet, using primitive technology that was thousands of years behind his own people. "How many humans live on this world?" he asked. "Nearly 8 billion, Admiral. They live in large cities and seem to spend most of their time fighting each other over small pieces of land. Their weapons are simple explosives and metal projectiles, nothing that could damage our ships." The Admiral walked to the large window at the front of his bridge and stared at Earth. It was a beautiful world, with white clouds swirling over blue oceans and brown continents. Soon it would belong to the hegemony, and these humans would work in mines and factories to make his people rich. "Send the standard message," he ordered. "Tell them they have 3 days to surrender, or we will destroy their cities one by one." On Earth, the appearance of the alien fleet sent shockwaves around the planet. In Seoul, President Kim Tae-ho sat in an emergency meeting with his advisors, watching satellite images of the enormous ships that had appeared near their world. "How many ships are there?" he asked his military commander. "Over 200, sir. Each one is larger than our biggest aircraft carriers. We've never seen technology like this before." Similar meetings were happening in every capital city on Earth. World leaders spoke on emergency phone calls trying to figure out what to do. Television news showed people in the streets, some running in panic, others standing still and staring at the sky where the alien ships could be seen as tiny dots even during the day. But in a secret underground facility on Jeju Island, General Park Min-ho was having a very different conversation. He sat in a room filled with computers and screens, speaking quietly into a secure phone. "The day has finally come," he said to the person on the other end. "Send the activation codes to all stations. It's time to wake up Project Aegis." Park had been waiting for this moment for 15 years. While the world above believed humanity was alone in the universe, he and a small group of military leaders had been preparing for exactly this situation. They had been watching the skies, listening to radio signals from space and building weapons that the public never knew existed. The alien broadcast began playing on every television, radio, and computer on Earth at the same time. The voice was cold and mechanical, but the words were perfectly translated into every human language. "People of Earth," the message began, "you are now under the control of the Zephyrian hegemony. You have 72 of your hours to surrender your weapons and your governments. If you resist, we will destroy your cities and take your planet by force. You cannot fight us. Your technology is too primitive. Submit now, and some of you will be allowed to live as workers for our empire." The message played 3 times, then stopped. Across Earth, people stood in shocked silence, many of them crying or praying. The aliens had given them 3 days to give up their entire world. Admiral Vextar smiled as he watched the humans' reaction through his long-range viewers. He could see crowds gathering in the streets, their primitive aircraft circling uselessly. Around his ships, their leaders probably arguing about what to do. It was always the same with primitive species. First came fear, then panic, then acceptance. "Admiral," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving multiple signals from the planet. It appears their leaders want to negotiate." "Ignore them," Vextar replied. "They have nothing we want except their surrender. In 3 days we will begin the attack. Prepare the bombardment ships." But deep beneath the surface of Earth, in hidden facilities that had been built over decades, something very different was happening. Dr. Lee So-young sat in front of a massive computer system, typing in access codes that hadn't been used in 30 years. All Aegis stations, this is Control. She spoke into her headset. Begin Phase 1 preparations. The enemy has revealed themselves. Now we reveal ourselves. Around the world, in places that looked like ordinary buildings and natural formations, hidden systems began to wake up from their long sleep. Humanity's greatest secret was about to be unveiled, and the aliens had no idea what was coming. The alien message played on every screen across Earth for the third time, and then silence fell over the planet. In government buildings around the world, leaders sat in emergency meetings, their faces pale with fear. The ultimatum was clear: surrender in 72 hours or watch their cities burn. In Washington, the president stared at the satellite images showing the massive alien fleet. What are our options? He asked his generals. We have nuclear weapons, but their ships are too far away and too well protected, replied the Secretary of Defense. Our jets can't reach them in space. We're completely helpless. Similar conversations were happening in Moscow, Beijing, London, and every other capital city. The world's most powerful army suddenly felt like children with toy soldiers facing real tanks. But far beneath Jeju Island in South Korea, General Park Min-ho was having a very different kind of meeting. He stood in front of a wall covered with monitors showing locations around the globe. Each screen displayed what looked like ordinary buildings: a radio tower in Canada, a research station in Antarctica, a small observatory in Chile. How long? Until all stations are ready? He asked Dr. Lee So-young, who sat at a control desk with her fingers flying over the keyboard. 12 hours for the first phase, sir, she replied without looking up. We've been in sleep mode for so long, some systems need time to warm up. Park nodded and pressed a button on his desk. This is Control to all Aegis stations. Begin silent. Activation immediately. Phase 1 protocols are now in effect. Around the world, in secret facilities that had been hidden for decades, people began receiving messages they had hoped would never come. Captain Choi Dong-wook was eating lunch in his small apartment when his special phone buzzed. The message was simple. Report to Station 7 immediately. Bring nothing. Tell no one. 2 hours later, Choi stood on the deck of a submarine that officially didn't exist. The vessel was docked in an underground harbor beneath what the world thought was a shipping company warehouse. The submarine looked normal from the outside, but Choi knew it carried weapons that could destroy spaceships. How long has it been, Captain? Asked Commander Song Yu-jin as she climbed aboard behind him. 15 years since the last drill, Choi replied. I was beginning to think this day would never come. In the Swiss Alps, what appeared to be a small weather research station was actually the entrance to one of Europe's most secret military installations. Dr. Yoon Hae-jin descended in an elevator that went down 30 floors underground, far deeper than any building should go. The elevator doors opened to reveal a massive chamber filled with equipment that looked like it belonged in a science fiction movie. Huge machines hummed with power, and dozens of technicians in white coats were checking systems that had been waiting patiently for decades. Is this real? Asked one of the younger technicians, staring at a weapon that could fire energy beams through space. More real than you know, replied Dr. Yoon. While the world was playing with smartphones and social media, we were building this. Every UFO crash, every strange light in the sky, every government denial. It was all preparation for today. Above ground, the panic continued to spread. News reporters stood in front of cameras, trying to explain the impossible situation to viewers who couldn't believe what they were hearing. Millions of people packed into churches, mosques, and temples praying for salvation. Others filled stores, buying food and water as if they could hide from spaceships. Admiral Vextar watched the chaos through his ship's viewers and felt satisfied. The humans were behaving exactly as expected, running around in fear, begging their leaders for protection that couldn't be given. In 24 hours, their panic would turn to despair. In 48 hours, they would be ready to surrender. Admiral, called his tactical officer, we're detecting some unusual energy readings from the planet. Vextar walked over to look at the sensor display. What kind of energy? Nothing significant, sir. Probably just their primitive power plants, working harder because of the panic. Some facilities that were dormant seemed to be coming online, but nothing that could threaten us. The Admiral nodded and returned to his planning. Humans were predictable creatures. When threatened, they would use more electricity for their lights and computers, trying to communicate with each other and coordinate their useless resistance. It was natural behavior for a primitive species. But deep beneath the Earth's surface, Lieutenant Colonel Han Ji-woo was testing systems that could change the course of the entire war. He stood in a control room that had been carved out of solid rock, watching as massive generators came to full power for the first time in 30 years. "Energy levels are stable," reported his chief engineer. "All weapon systems are responding, normally." "Good," Han replied. "In 48 hours, these aliens are going to learn that Earth has been ready for them much longer than they think." The countdown continued. The aliens waited in space, confident in their overwhelming superiority. The humans on the surface prepared for the worst, not knowing that beneath their feet their protectors were getting ready to spring the greatest trap in the history of warfare. 60 hours remained until the ultimatum expired. The real battle was about to begin. As the second day of the ultimatum began, something strange was happening across Earth. In places that looked completely normal, hidden doors were opening and secret systems were coming to life. Most people had no idea that beneath their feet and around their towns, humanity's greatest secret was finally awakening. In the Atacama Desert of Chile, Dr. Kim Jae-min arrived at what everyone thought was a simple radio telescope used for studying stars. But when he pressed his hand against a hidden scanner, the entire building began to change. The large dish on top slowly folded away, revealing something that looked nothing like scientific equipment. After 20 years of pretending to search for radio signals from space, he said to his small team, "We finally get to use this thing for what it was really built for." The massive weapon that emerged from beneath the fake telescope could fire energy beams powerful enough to cut through the hull of any spaceship. It had been disguised as astronomy equipment for 2 decades, and even the local government thought it was just another research station. Meanwhile, in Antarctica, Colonel Park Soo-bin was leading a team into what the world believed was a weather monitoring station. The building looked small and simple from outside, but hidden elevators took them deep into the ice where a facility the size of several football fields had been waiting in darkness. "How long since anyone has been down here?" asked one of the technicians as they walked through corridors filled with advanced equipment. 12 years, Park replied. "We only come here for inspections and maintenance. The systems run themselves most of the time." The facility contained weapons that could shoot down spaceships from the other side of the planet. Massive computers tracked every object in space around Earth, and hidden satellites had been watching for alien visitors for decades. Everything had been built to look like it belonged to different countries and organizations, so no one would suspect they were all part of the same secret project. In Iceland, what appeared to be a geothermal power plant was actually something much more dangerous. Engineer Lee Min-jun walked through control rooms that generated enough electricity to power entire cities, but none of that power went to homes or businesses. Instead, it fed weapon systems that had been hidden beneath the volcanic landscape. "The aliens think we're primitive," he said to his crew as they brought the systems online. "They scanned our planet and saw exactly what we wanted them to see, nothing but normal human technology." The truth was that for 50 years, every time an alien ship had crashed on Earth, every time strange signals had been detected from space, teams of scientists and engineers had been studying the technology and building defenses. The public had been told these incidents were weather balloons or natural phenomena, but in reality, humanity had been preparing for exactly this day. Captain Choi Dong-wook stood on the bridge of his submarine, which was now moving through underwater tunnels that connected to the ocean. His vessel looked like a normal military submarine from the outside, but it carried weapons that could track and destroy targets in space. "Contact control," he ordered his communications officer. "Tell them Unit 7 is ready for deployment." "Yes, sir." "Control acknowledges. They say 36 other units are also ready." Choi smiled grimly. The aliens had no idea that Earth's oceans hid an entire fleet of submarines designed specifically for space warfare. Each one could surface and fire missiles that would follow enemy ships no matter where they tried to hide. In a bunker beneath Mount Baekdu, Dr. Lee So-young was coordinating all these preparations from a command center that looked like something from a science fiction movie. Hundreds of screens showed the status of hidden facilities around the world, and dozens of technicians worked at computers that controlled humanity's secret arsenal. "Status report," she called out to her team. "North American stations are at full power," reported one technician. "European facilities ready for action. Asian installations coming online now. African and South American sites will be ready in 6 hours. Lee nodded and opened a communication channel to General Park Min-ho. "Sir, we're almost ready. The aliens still don't suspect anything. Their scanners are only detecting normal increases in power usage, which they think is just panic response." "Excellent," Park replied from his own command center. "Remember, we only get one chance at this. If they realize what we really are before we attack, they might call for reinforcements." High above in space, Admiral Vextar was reviewing the final attack plans with his officers. His scanners showed some increased activity on Earth, but nothing that looked like military preparation. "The humans are using more electricity than usual," reported his science officer. "Probably trying to coordinate their governments and keep their people calm." "Any sign of weapons being prepared?" asked the Admiral. "None at all, sir. A few of their military bases show increased activity, but nothing that could threaten us. Their most powerful weapons are still those primitive nuclear bombs, and they have no way to deliver them to our ships." Vextar was satisfied. In 24 hours, he would begin the bombardment of Earth's major cities. The humans would surrender quickly once they saw the power of Zephyrian weapons. It would be just another easy conquest for the hegemony. But beneath Earth's surface, in hidden facilities around the globe, humanity was putting the finishing touches on the greatest deception in galactic history. The 72 hours were up. Admiral Vextar stood on his command bridge, watching the blue planet below with cold satisfaction. No surrender message had come from Earth, which meant he could now proceed with the standard conquest procedure. "Begin the attack," he ordered his fleet commanders. "Target their largest cities first. Once they see what our weapons can do, the rest will surrender quickly." Across the alien fleet, hundreds of fighter ships launched from the larger vessels. Each fighter was armed with plasma cannons that could turn buildings into ash and energy bombs that could level entire city blocks. The pilots were confident. They had conquered dozens of worlds using the same tactics. "This should be over in a few hours," one pilot said to another over their communication system. "These humans have nothing that can hurt us." The first wave of alien fighters descended toward Earth, heading for cities like New York, London, Tokyo, and Moscow. Their weapons powered up as they entered the atmosphere, ready to begin the destruction that would force humanity to its knees. But as the fighters reached an altitude of 50 kilometers above Earth's surface, something impossible happened. Pilot Major Park Subin had been waiting in her cockpit for this exact moment. Her aircraft had been sitting in what looked like an empty field in South Korea, completely invisible to any sensors. When the alien ships entered Earth's atmosphere, she pressed a single button on her control panel. "This is Eagle 1, she said into her radio. "All units attack now." Suddenly, the sky around the alien fighters filled with human aircraft that appeared from nowhere. These weren't the primitive jets that the aliens had seen in their scans. These were ships that looked almost alien themselves, with smooth curves and weapons that glowed with energy. Park's fighter materialized directly behind an alien bomber. Her plasma cannons, weapons built from technology reverse-engineered from crashed alien ships, tearing through its hull before the pilot could even react. Around her, dozens of other human pilots were doing the same thing, destroying alien fighters with weapons the enemy didn't know humans possessed. "Impossible," shouted one of the alien pilots over the radio. "These primitives don't have this technology." But that was only the beginning. As the battle raged in the sky, Earth's surface began to reveal its true nature. What had looked like ordinary mountains and hills suddenly opened up, revealing massive weapon installations that had been hidden for decades. In Chile, Dr. Kim Jae-min's disguised telescope fired its first shot, a beam of pure energy that traveled at the speed of light and punched a hole straight through the hull of an alien cruiser. The ship exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from the ground. "Target destroyed," he reported calmly to his team. Switching to next target, "Admiral, Vextar watched in horror as his tactical display showed his ships being destroyed by weapons that shouldn't exist. "How is this possible?" he screamed at his officers. "Our scans showed they were primitive. Where did these weapons come from?" "Admiral," called his communications officer, "we're receiving reports from all attack groups. The humans have advanced fighters, energy weapons, and defensive systems we've never seen before. Half of our first wave has been destroyed." From the ocean around the world, submarines began surfacing and firing missiles that could track targets through space itself. Captain Choi Dong-wook's vessel launched 6 missiles in rapid succession, each one guided by computers that could predict exactly where the alien ships would try to escape. "All missiles tracking true," reported his weapons officer. "Impact in 30 seconds. The missiles struck their targets with perfect accuracy, destroying alien ships that thought they were safe in the vacuum of space. Similar attacks were happening all around Earth as the planet's hidden submarine fleet revealed itself. In Iceland, Lee Min-jun's fake power plant began channeling enormous amounts of energy to a weapon that created cracks in space itself. When Soderby, the energy beam, hit an alien battleship, the vessel simply vanished, torn apart by forces that twisted reality. "The big one is gone," he reported to Control. "Moving to secondary targets." Colonel Park Subin's facility in Antarctica launched missiles that could travel faster than light itself, striking alien ships before their sensors could even detect the incoming weapons. Her computers had been tracking every alien vessel since they arrived, calculating the perfect moment to strike. From his underground command center, General Park Min-ho watched as his carefully planned trap snapped shut around the alien fleet. For 50 years, humanity had been preparing for this day, building weapons and training soldiers in secret while the world above lived normal lives. "All stations report successful first strikes," announced Dr. Lee So-young from her control center. "Enemy losses at 60% and climbing. They're starting to retreat." Admiral Vextar could hardly believe what he was seeing. His mighty fleet, which had conquered star systems across the galaxy, was being destroyed by a species he had thought was barely capable of spaceflight. The humans weren't primitive at all. They had been hiding their true capabilities, waiting for exactly this moment. "All ships retreat," he ordered desperately. "Emergency jump to hyperspace, get us away from this planet." But even as his surviving ships tried to escape, Earth's weapons continued to track them, destroying vessels that thought they had reached safety. The truth was becoming clear to every alien in the fleet. They had not discovered a defenseless world to conquer. They had walked into the most dangerous trap in the galaxy. The battle was turning into a complete disaster for the Zephyrian fleet. Admiral Vextar watched his command screens in disbelief as more of his ships disappeared from the display every few seconds. What should have been an easy conquest had become a nightmare that he couldn't understand. "How many ships have we lost?" he asked his tactical officer, though he dreaded the answer. 70% of the fleet is gone, Admiral," came the horrified reply. "The humans are using weapons we've never seen before. Some of our ships are being destroyed by beams that travel faster than light. Others are vanishing completely, Dire." Park Subin chased 3 fleeing alien fighters beyond Earth's moon, her advanced spacecraft moving through space as easily as a fish through water. Her weapons locked onto the enemy ships with perfect accuracy, and within seconds all 3 were nothing but glowing debris. "Control, this is Eagle 1, she reported back to Earth. "Pursuing enemy fighters beyond lunar orbit. They're trying to reach their main fleet." "Copy that, Eagle 1, came Dr. Lee So-young's voice from the command center. "Be advised, our long-range weapons are tracking all enemy vessels. None will escape." The truth about humanity's deception was becoming clear to every surviving alien in the fleet. Earth wasn't a primitive world that had stumbled into space travel. It was a carefully disguised fortress that had been waiting for invaders for generations. "Captain, Choi Dong-wook's submarine had surfaced in the Pacific Ocean and was now firing weapons that could reach targets anywhere in the solar system. His missiles followed the fleeing alien ships like hunting dogs, striking with devastating accuracy even when the targets tried to hide behind asteroids or moons. Enemy battleship attempting to escape toward Jupiter, reported his weapons officer. Missile tracking true. Impact in 40 seconds. Confirmed kill, came the response as another alien vessel vanished in a ball of fire near the gas giant. In his command bunker, General Park Min-ho was receiving reports from facilities around the globe. Each hidden installation was performing exactly as designed, weapons that had been disguised for decades finally revealing their true purpose. "Sir," called one of his communications officers, "we're intercepting alien transmissions. They're broadcasting warnings to their homeworlds, telling other ships to stay away from Earth." Park smiled grimly. That had been part of the plan all along. Let the survivors escape so they could spread the word that humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Admiral Vexitar was preparing to give the order for his remaining ships to jump to hyperspace when his science officer made a discovery that chilled him to his core. "Admiral, I've been analyzing the human weapons," the officer reported with a trembling voice. "These aren't primitive weapons that they built quickly. Some of this technology is decades old. They've been preparing for us for generations." "What do you mean?" Vexitar demanded. "Sir, our records show that we've been receiving signals from this system for over 50 years. Radio transmissions, television broadcasts, things that made us think they were a young civilization. But now I realize those signals were bait. They wanted us to think they were primitive while they built these weapons." The Admiral felt his blood turn cold. "Are you saying they knew we were coming?" "Yes, sir. They've been listening to our communications, learning about our technology, preparing for exactly this kind of attack. Every crashed probe we sent to scout this world, every transmission they intercepted, they used it all to build weapons specifically, designed to destroy our ships." Dr. Kim Jae-min's installation in Chile fired another energy beam, this one striking an alien command ship that was trying to coordinate the retreat. As the vessel exploded, he spoke calmly into his headset. "Control, this is Desert Station. Another command vessel eliminated. The enemy fleet is completely disorganized now." "Excellent work, Desert Station," replied Dr. Lee So-young. "All stations, continue firing until no enemy vessels remain in our solar system." In Iceland, Lee Min-jun was preparing to fire his most powerful weapon, a device that could tear holes in space itself. The remaining alien ships were clustered together, trying to protect each other as they charged their hyperspace drives. "One shot should get all of them," he said to his team, charging the quantum disruptor now. The weapon fired, and space itself seemed to bend around the alien fleet. 3 of their largest ships simply ceased to exist, erased from reality by forces that twisted the laws of physics. Admiral Vexitar realized that his fleet was doomed. These humans had turned their entire planet into a weapon, disguising deadly installations as ordinary buildings and research stations. They had been watching the galaxy for decades, learning about alien technology and building countermeasures. "All surviving ships jump to hyperspace immediately," he ordered desperately. "Emergency protocols, get us away from this system." The few remaining alien vessels activated their faster-than-light drives and vanished into hyperspace, fleeing toward their homeworlds with news that would change everything. Behind them, Earth's weapons powered down and disappeared back into their hiding places. Within hours, the planet looked exactly as it had before the attack. The hidden installations were once again disguised as ordinary buildings. The advanced fighters were invisible in their secret hangars. The submarines had returned to the depths of the oceans. But now the galaxy knew the truth. Earth wasn't a defenseless world waiting to be conquered. It was the most dangerous trap any species had ever built. A planet that pretended to be primitive while hiding weapons that could destroy any fleet that dared to attack. The message spread quickly through alien civilizations. Avoid the Sol system. At all costs. The humans were far more dangerous than they appeared.